Thank you for joining us at the Real ResQ Podcast.
I'm Haley. I'm Jalen.
And I'm Cameron. This podcast is powered by Vertical Magazine's Helicasts.
You can check out all the podcasts at verticalhelicast.com. This includes Hangar Z and the Helicopter Podcast.
Also, Valor Flight Crew and Vertical MRO. Now shout out to our sponsors.
Airbus, pioneering sustainable aerospace. Check them out at airbus.com. Metro Aviation, provide the safest and highest quality aircraft operations, completions, and maintenance. Check them out at metroaviation.com.
Spectral Lab, 50 years of high-intensity lighting solutions. Check them out at spectrolab.com.
Have you guys heard about the Real ResQ store? Yeah, you can go support your favorite podcast there.
At therealrescuestore.com. It's time to get into our next episode.
And as a bonus, our guest is featured in an article in the summer 2025 issue of Vertical Valor magazine titled Weathering the Storm.
You can find the link to that article in the description of this episode. Now let's kick things off with 3 fun facts about our guest.
He loves to play golf, he loves to read,
and he's an avid writer. Please welcome Mr. Ryan Vandehei.
My name is Jason Quinn. I am United States Coast Guard Rescue Swimmer number 500. These are my rescues and rescues from those of us that put our lives on the line every day so others may live. This is the Real ResQ Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Real ResQ Podcast. I am psyched to have you here today because I've got another United States Coast Guard pilot and his epic career of everything he's done and about to be what he's doing. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Ryan Vandehei. What's up, dude?
Hey, thanks for having me. I love this.
My pleasure, man. Good to see you. It's been
Thanks. You got such a great platform. It's such a great show. I'm excited.
I had to yeah, totally. That's right, because you and I recorded. And first of all, thank you. That's very kind. I have to keep up with you boys in the Flight Suit Friday podcast. Make sure, because every time I turn around, I see you guys like dropping stuff, and I'm like, oh, I need them on like the episode as well. Come on. It's funny, but it's cool. Like I think back, you and I met a couple of years ago. Like just through connections, like multiple ways. And it was because we were going to try to all record together on the VAI. Back then it was Heli Expo on the floor. And that's where the relationship started. So you were part of the group that came on in episode 131. I had all you guys on, just Flight Suit Friday podcast. Absolutely great podcast. So I love it. So
thank you.
Thanks for coming back on. Now you get to go on solo. Nobody to overshadow you.
I know nobody to make me sound smarter, nobody.
Oh, it's fantastic. Well, like I said, man, I appreciate you coming on. I'm excited because we've got some good conversation coming up. So it's going to be good.
I'm excited. I'm stoked.
Yeah. Good. Well, let's bring it in. Like, where are you from and what brought you into the U.S. Coast Guard?
Yeah, I'm from Connecticut originally. I went to high school maybe 30 minutes down the road from the Coast Guard Academy. And so nice. A handful of people from my high school went to the Coast Guard Academy. And I just kind of got the bug. I saw this poster, this epic poster of Coast Guard 60 rescuing somebody you were probably in that picture because you're that old, going down in rough waves, And I saw this poster and I'm like, man, I got to be one of those guys. I got to do something cool with my life. I got to do something meaningful with my life. Not smart enough to be a doctor or a lawyer, but maybe I could be a pilot. And so
that sounds terrible. Pilots are pretty smart guys. I'm going to throw that out there.
Yeah,
I got you, man.
Okay. So I applied to the Coast Guard Academy, and everybody told me that it was hard to get in, but it was the only school that I applied to. I refused to apply to any other college or anything like that. I just went for broke. It's like, this is where I want to go. This is what I want to do. So applied to the academy and got in. I also heard that like someone was like, "Oh, if you want to fly, maybe you should go to the Air Force or something like that." But I heard a rumor that the Coast Guard sends a higher like percentage of people into aviation, and it was just a blind rumor. I have no idea if that's true or not. And so I just chose to believe it and went to the Coast Guard Academy with the intention of wanting to fly helicopters for the organization, and just committed to it. And so my path to becoming a Coast Guard pilot started right out of high school. And so it was like a 6-year journey to being in a Coast Guard aircraft from that point.
Wow.
So
Oh yeah, 4 years of the academy.
4 years
And then
of
from
academy,
there,
2 years of
what is it, right to flight school?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I was really lucky to go straight to flight school to keep that journey a little bit shorter. And then, yeah, straight into flight school, 2 years of that, and then flying Coast Guard helicopters for my whole career after that.
That's awesome. Quick question, like coming into from the academy to flight school,
Yeah.
I'm under the impression that it's actually pretty difficult to get from the academy to flight school. Is that like when you were going through, did you find that, or do you, now that you know better? Like not being so naive going into it, like, oh, this is easy, whatever.
Yeah, it was definitely pretty difficult. I had to keep the grades up. But I think my year they chose quite a few people. I think they took 20 people in my class.
Oh wow.
To go to flight school. So thankfully the cut was pretty deep, so I was able to get in. I don't know what my class rank was or anything like that, but it wasn't in the top 10, that's for sure.
It was good enough to be a pilot.
It was good enough to be a pilot, and that's what matters.
Wait a minute, the last guy that graduates out of flight school, what do they call him? Yeah, pilot.
Yeah, pilot. You just got to get your foot in the door.
Doctor. Look at you. You could have been a doctor.
Could have been a doctor. That's been my mantra my whole career, though, is just let me get my foot in the door, and then I'll prove to you what I can do from there. So just get your foot in the door, and then work your ass off and go from there.
Man, you know what? That's a great piece of advice right there. I haven't even asked you for good advice, and that's a good piece of advice. You're starting it off right. Thanks, Ryan. That's good shit. Let's go. Awesome. All right, so you get through flight school, your first unit. Yeah. Where did you go?
Humboldt Bay, California. It was number 7 on my list, and at first I was a little bit bummed, but looking back, I am so happy that I got the Northwest. I put a list together as like just I'm gonna put down everything and see what they give me kind of thing. And down for an adventure, and I am so glad looking back. I was scared to go to Humboldt because it's so isolated, as a first tour guy, as a single guy, you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen up here. I'll just go out into the nothingness of the Pacific Northwest. But
behind the redwood curtain.
But I mean, flying up there was amazing. Living up there was amazing. I lived like 2 minutes from the redwood forest. Like I had my own redwood, copse of trees in my backyard. It was insane.
Oh, awesome.
Getting in with the locals, climbed a redwood tree at one point. Like it was just awesome. And the flying is just epic out there. You cannot beat the flying in the Pacific Northwest.
No, it's crazy. I agree. Like all of Humboldt Bay and all that area is absolutely gorgeous to fly through. And then just some of the other things I remember about flying out of there is when you're coming back up from like Cape Mendocino, like when you're south of Mendo, and then you turn the corner and you hit Mendo, and all of a sudden you're like, boom! Oh, there's the headwind.
There's the headwind. There's the headwind. There's the pod.
Yeah. You're like, we had enough fuel to get back. Now I'm 50-50.
Oh yeah, and this was back in the Delta model, so didn't have the fancy equipment that the Echo model had. So we're trying to do fuel calculations a little bit differently back then.
That's funny. It's funny to hear you say that with all the other pilots that have flown like Alpha and Bravo.
Alpha models,
and they're like, dude.
I'm still a baby pilot, Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Those guys were crazy. I can't imagine flying in that environment in some of the aircraft that they did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. Yeah. It's impressive where the Coast Guard took the Dolphin, like how far they went with it and all the electronics and all the bells and whistles that they ended up putting on that aircraft to make it so much better. It's props
nice
to them and Airbus to really to make it what it is today. So
absolutely.
I know they're retiring it out. They're slowly progressing to get rid of that aircraft because they're not serviceable anymore. But I mean, it's still still flying.
Hours on it. So. Yeah, I flew one with 20,000 hours on it. So,
oh my gosh!
Yeah,
like, when you think about that, that's insane.
Those things have seen some stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dang, man. All right, Ryan. Well, all right. So you get to Humboldt, you get all qualified up. Do you remember your very first rescue?
Very first rescue, my very first live hoist. Yeah, I was a first pilot, so it took a while. Humboldt's one of those feast or famine kind of places where you don't get a lot, and then when you do get something, it's wild. And I was a first pilot going out with my good buddy who had just made aircraft commander, Alex Lloyd. And there were these 3 kids that had tried to go rafting up near Crescent City by, I think, the Smith River up there, the North Fork. And I got a picture to show you. It's us basically in the river valley trying to hoist them. But 3 like high school kids got stranded. Their raft floated away. So they're on one side of the river with rapids across the river. And then all the rescue equipment and on the road is on the far side of the river from them. And so the land-based unit set up like a swiftwater pulley system to get themselves across the river. And they had a plan of like ferrying these guys across the river, but none of them had life jackets. They'd been out there in the like environment for a while. And I mean, swiftwater rescue, like, it's just one of those things that those guys are crazy. So thankfully it was like a land hoist for us, but at the same time, it's a super confined area. We had little to no room for fly out. So we burned down gas and then wedged ourselves into this area to do the hoist. And we had this like great idea. It's like, we're going to send the swimmer down and then just keep the swimmer down at the base of the hook and then ferry them across the river.
Like short haul them. Long line.
Short haul across.
Yeah, buddy. Nice.
That was the game plan. Just short haul right across the river over to the clearing on the other side. And we're facing west, sorry. And it's coming near sunset. And so we're on a little bit more of a time crunch. We're like, okay, we need to get this case going because so many things change at sunset, right? The wind direction in the river changes. The sunlight obviously changes dramatically. So much of the rescue is going to go out the window on us if we don't get this done sooner rather than later. And I mean, we had no idea of what the wind was in the river valley. And I'm so glad I got this advice from an old captain of mine that was like, you show up on scene and remember that you're the Coast Guard and just ask for what you need and let other people, smart people, figure out the solution. And so we show up on scene and we're like, we have no idea what the wind is down there. Do you guys have any idea? And they had a guy like pull out a sheet from the back of a car and like hold it on the back of the car to see like wind direction down there. So we could get some sort of idea, like a makeshift windsock as to what was going on at the bottom of the river valley.
What a good idea.
Yeah, I know. Just let smart people figure it out for you, you know? Like, you don't have to come up with every solution out there. And so we finally figure out the wind. We wedge ourselves in there. We're going to do the short haul. And we get the swimmer down. It's maybe like 100-foot hoist, maybe a little bit more. We had to keep a little bit of altitude because of the trees in that area. And we send the swimmer down. And we start the taxi left across the river. And it's not that far of a short haul. But we started the taxi left across the river, and all of a sudden the sun peeks out from behind the trees, and it blooms out my buddy who's on the controls, and he's like, oh shit, I can't see. And so I had to take the controls mid short haul across the river in this really confined area. And I had been looking down this way because there's a tree that we're trying to avoid. And so I'm looking
far left.
this way.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking down and left when he's like, oh shit, I can't see. And I'm like, I guess I have the controls. And so I had to take the controls, and I stopped the short haul, right? Midway across, which seems like a great idea, just stop and reset. Well, you're at 100 feet, and the guy at the bottom doesn't stop. So he starts this huge pendulum, right? And so I'm a first pilot, right? And you don't know what you don't know. And at this point in my career, like years later, I've done tons of pendulum and oscillation training, spin training. I know how to get rid of different oscillations, different pendulums. Like, how to combat these things a lot better later on in your career. But in that moment, I hadn't had that training yet. And all we knew is like, oh shit, we've got the sun blooming out one guy, we've got the other guy on the controls, and now we have this huge pendulum in a confined area. What do we do? And we did the wrong thing, which is just bring them up, right? Which is going to make
start hoisting them in. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Start
good.
hoisting them in, which is just going to so like knowing what I know now, right? Having like helped write the TTP and done a ton of training, swiftwater training, pendulum training, like, now, like, okay, there are different ways out of this, come up in altitude to like kill the pendulum, pay out a little bit, work the cable, get ETL. Like there's so many different ways to kill a pendulum swing that I know now that I didn't know then. But instead we just tried to bring them up, which was a huge, like, that just made the hoist even harder. And so we fought the cable. We finally got them inside the aircraft. And we're like, well, that short haul didn't work. What do we do now? And so we come back around, and there's this big like dirt parking lot. We're like, we're just gonna hoist them down in the basket into this dirt parking lot, and then go get the other two, and we'll do the same thing. We'll make our approach into the dirt parking lot that we hadn't really scouted that well, because that wasn't the plan. And we made this decision a little bit like later in the game. And so you're on a plan C at this point. And so plan C never goes that well. So we make this approach into this clearing, and all of a sudden we get dust everywhere. And we're trying to like do a hoist with like down to the dust. So then we came up in altitude, which is a good answer. But now we're in even higher hoist, trying to put these people down into like this clearing. But my buddy was a phenomenal stick. Alex, such a good pilot that he knocked it out of the park, put them down. And now we're running out of gas, and I'm the co-pilot trying to figure out like, okay, we have enough gas to go get these guys and go to Crescent City, but we're going to have to like take them with us. Let's just pick up the last two and take them with us to Crescent City for gas. And it'll split up the friend group, which is a little bit of a bummer, but they'll figure it out. And then we'll have an ambulance meet us at Crescent City to check them for hypothermia and all that jazz. So that's what we did. We went back into the valley, picked up the last two, and then just departed the area for Crescent City and went there for gas right as the sun was setting. We were sitting down at Crescent City getting gas. And so it ended up being a great case, but it was one of those cases that you're so junior and your buddy's so junior, and you're looking around like, man, we were just at the bar the other day together. Like, what are we doing with our lives? Like, how do people trust us to make this happen? And you're so junior that you don't know what you don't know. And so you make things harder on yourself by accident. And so one of those cases that probably would have done significantly differently later in my career, but the Coast Guard trained us well enough and had the tools necessary that we're able to make that case happen. And yeah, it was funny. So got an LOC out of that one, which was nice. So first case.
which Ryan conveniently forgot to send me before we started recording. But that's okay, I have it now, and here's what it says. From Commandant to Lieutenant Ryan J. Vandehei. Subject, letter accommodation. I note with pride and am pleased to commend you of your performance of duty while assigned to Coast Guard Sector Humboldt Bay on 22 May 2017. While serving as co-pilot aboard Coast Guard Helicopter 6558, Sector Humboldt Bay watchstanders received a request for assistance from the Del Norte County Sheriff to aid in the recovery of 3 teenagers stranded on the banks of the Smith River. Arriving on scene, you and your crew quickly located the survivors and assessed the best course of action to effect their rescue. Deputies on scene deployed a plan to extract the juveniles across the rapids utilizing a tow line, but snag hazards and swift rapids would prove to be dangerous for 2 of the teenagers who could not swim. With an aerial extraction deemed necessary and limited daylight remaining, you worked seamlessly with the crew to develop a rescue plan involved a direct deployment of the rescue swimmer to transfer the 3 survivors to the sheriff rescue team on the opposite side of the river. Upon arriving on scene and descending into the narrow river valley, all radio communications with sector was lost. With a bias for your action, you swiftly established a communications relay between the sheriff's team and sector and tasked the ground party as safety observers. With the helicopter in rescue profile 125 feet above the swiftwater, your role as safety pilot was crucial. Never relaxing your defense posture, you took the flight controls as the flying pilot lost visual hover references in the setting sun. A pendulum swing during the hoist dramatically challenged the rescue plan, and you, without delay, coordinated with the ground party to receive the survivor in a clearing upstream. Facing limited station time, you assisted during 2 more challenging hoists and brought the remaining survivors to safety and delivered them to awaiting emergency medical personnel at the Crescent City Airport. You are commended for your outstanding performance of duty. By your meritorious service, you have upheld the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Well done, Ryan. Dude, that's awesome, man. You know, I've got a couple questions for it, but the first thing I want to note, like let's see, you said there were 3 guys on the shoreline. You picked the first guy up and then you hoisted him down to the parking lot, right? And then you took the other 2 guys for a helicopter ride. Do you know how bummed out the dude that's on the parking lot is like, man, they got a helicopter ride. All I got was like what the heck?
I don't know. He's got a 100-foot short haul where he's ping-ponging across the trees. He was probably over it.
Yeah, he's like, all right, I'm out. I'm not. Screw that.
Not going near helicopter.
You guys just stay there. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what, if you don't mind, would you mind debriefing that a little bit? Like what you know now, how would you have done that whole thing different? We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
SpectroLab. SpectroLab, a pioneer and world-leading supplier of high-intensity searchlights for all para-public operations. Visit www.spectrolab.com to learn more about our 3rd-generation Night Sun series high-intensity searchlight. When reliability and performance is critical to your mission, count on SpectroLab Night Sun searchlights.
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those cases that we did a lot of things right. We got really light on fuel first before going into the valley. We didn't we briefed it, but I don't think we understood, like, you're young and you're naive and you're like understanding how committed you are in that spot too. And then with the short haul, I probably wouldn't have done the short haul. I would have just brought him up into the helicopter, moved across, brought him down, because the short haul brings a lot into question in that confined of a space. But even if we did decide to do a short haul, because it's not a bad idea to just haul them across, briefing ahead of time what your outs are if a pendulum like happens, because even as you slide across, like there's a good chance that you're gonna bring up induce a pendulum anyway, unless you like stop really effectively. So briefing that on, hey, how do you counteract, like knowing the flight mech responsibilities of, hey, how are you going to counteract the pendulum with the just moving or interacting with the hoist cable as we stop, hey, expect this to happen and stuff like that. That's one of the things that AHRS taught me really well, is know every crew position and brief everybody by knowing what they're going to be going through. Like, not to the point of like, hey man, I know your job and I'm going to tell you how to do your job, because that's wrong. Like, trust the professional to do their job correctly, but like having an understanding enough of, hey, tell the swimmer like, hey, there's a good chance like we're going to, like, if we get into a situation with inducing a pendulum, what are the signals that you can give the flight mech to help out with that? Hey, flight mech, we're going to possibly induce a pendulum. What are the things that you can do ahead of time or prepare for, so that your reaction time is that much faster because you briefed it? Or as a crew, hey, we're going to give me the up 10 command, because we have enough power for that. It'll kill the pendulum right away. And it's fascinating how many pilots and aircrew don't realize how effective just an up 10 command is with killing a pendulum. It just kills it so fast. Or even working against, like counteracting with the hoist cable as a flight mech as you start to slow down, or as the pilot slowing down a little bit more effectively. And I also would have dry run the short haul, because if we had done a dry run,
I like that.
If we had done a dry run, we would have noticed that the sun was going to be a huge issue moving across. And the time that you don't want to be clearing things for the first time is with somebody on the hook. So me back here, like, yeah, we're clearing that tree, man. Like, the last time you want to be clearing, you don't want to be clearing that obstacle for the first time when it's for real. Like, do a dry run. And so often in the 65 community, we were short on gas always.
Yeah.
And so we're used to going fast. And recognizing that you have time for a dry run. Don't sell yourself short. I like to say that, like, you always have 60 seconds to think about something. No matter how little gas you have, you probably have 60 seconds to stop and be like, okay, what's the best way to do this? And 60 seconds is a long time to contemplate a problem.
Oh yeah.
And so
agreed.
Give yourself that time, give yourself a moment and take a beat and be like, okay, so would have dry run, would have briefed better, would have had the tools necessary to counteract issues that come up. And then otherwise I would have done it all the same. Let the guy who's the better stick at the controls, like, let Alex fly the whole thing, don't put me on the controls at all, and let him handle it,
Yeah. I'm going to throw one more thing in. My own experience is, when it comes to a pendulum, for everybody out there, put it in the water or put it back on the ground. It'll stop.
Dip it.
So just like you're over the river. Yep.
Yeah. You're over the river. Dip the fins,
Dip them. Like, you know what? I can get a new pair of boots back, or I can dry my boots. Dip me.
Yeah.
Like, just put me down. Like, I'll just drag my feet across the ground or in the river or in the water, and that'll stop. Now, granted, I get it. Not every situation will dictate that, but there are other avenues. Sure. But so, put them back on the ground or fly away or pull power. Yeah. All appropriate reactions to a pendulum. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I hope everybody else out there can get a little nugget out of that one. So, especially for the junior guys that have never seen it or never dealt with it, it's a real thing, and it sucks when it gets out of control.
But it's so easy to fix. It's
it really is.
You pull 10% power and you've killed it.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe me,
stop hoisting for a minute.
Yeah. And if you don't believe in the physics of it, put put a pencil, put a tennis ball at the end of a string and create a pendulum and just pull up a little bit and watch it stop. You know, like
Totally.
you can prove to yourself how the physics is going to work if you don't believe it. Like, and that's how we used to train it at AHRS. We used to show, like, how do we get rid of a pendulum? And we would just tie a pencil to the end of a string and show the different ways of getting rid of it, you know? So.
Yeah. Dude, that's fantastic, man. Ryan, thank you for sharing that one, dude. That's phenomenal. Well done. Way to pull out a win on that one. First rescue ever, dude.
First rescue, made it happen. You know, I don't have a ton of live hoists under my belt, but the ones that I have been pretty fun. So,
well done. That one deserves some recognition right there. So psyched for you, brother. Nice job. Now, I'll tell you what, I'm going to bring you to the next one. While you're in Humboldt, you earned yourself a letter of accommodation for a rescue you were on 21 May 2018. And here's what this one says. From Commandant to Lieutenant Ryan J. Vandehei, United States Coast Guard. Letter of accommodation. I note with pride and am pleased to commend you for your performance of duty while assigned to Sector Humboldt Bay, California on 21 May 2018. Serving as the pilot at the controls aboard Coast Guard helicopter 6502, you launched with your crew on a report of a stranded kayaker on the rocks near Albion Light. Arriving on scene in the pitch darkness shortly after midnight, the crew located the survivor in a small clearing amidst large boulders at the bottom of a 110-foot cliff. Due to the extremely perilous location of the survivor, the crew determined that the hoist offered the best opportunity for a safe rescue. With 20-knot sustained winds and the incoming tide threatening the survivors, you brought the aircraft to a steady 130-foot hover and successfully delivered the rescue swimmer to the confined area beneath the cliff face. Despite numerous obstacles and limited entry routes, your precise controls of the helicopter enabled the safe deployment of the rescue swimmer and subsequent recovery of both swimmer and the survivor. With limited visual cues, you carefully landed the helicopter atop the grassy cliff in order to deliver the survivor to the awaiting rescue personnel. Your leadership and commitment to safety, completing the mission was clearly evident as your crew decided to refuel at Point Arena Lighthouse in the dark at 0200 local time. While returning to the Arcata Airport, your crew encountered an overcast layer that greatly diminished visibility due to darkness. The crew was forced to alter their flight plan to avoid the numerous overwater obstacles near Cape Mendocino, utilizing the aircraft's radar system. Your pursuance of excellence in both knowledge and training led to the safe recovery of the stranded survivor under unique and challenging circumstances. You are commended for your outstanding performance of duty. By your meritorious service, you have upheld the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Well done, sir. Well done.
Appreciate it.
So so for those that don't know, when you launch out of Humboldt Bay, the Humboldt Bay Air Station is up in Arcata and or known as McKinleyville, which is even a little bit further north of that. But Cape Mendo is, if I remember correctly, probably a 30-minute flight south. And then Point Arena is another 30 minutes south of that. So you're like a good hour away from that location that you had to get to.
Yeah, and you kind of have to go out and around the Cape too in order to get there, because kind of like what it said, there are like a ton of rock formations that stick out that are in the water, that'll come up and bite you. They're like 200 feet tall out in that area, and so you kind of have to go out and around the whole Cape. And the weather always changes right around there. It's like it's a weather phenomenon, whatever, that you go from headwind to tailwind, you go from fog to no fog, you go from, it's crazy. Cape.
It is wild. The other thing that I remember from being out there is like Point Arena was kind of that middle ground between Humboldt Bay and San Francisco. Like it was that if San Fran had a bird closer, they would send theirs. If we had a bird, if nobody had a bird, it was based on, there was a lot of factors that went into that in particular area. So Yeah. All right. So you guys get called out. And again, I'm emphasizing that because it's an hour flight to get there. And that dude is on the rocks stuck for at least an hour.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay, go.
Yeah. So we, it was a pretty uneventful flight to get down there, which was, thankfully, it was pretty clear the whole way. And we just were VFR, just in the dark. But we show up on scene and we have a bunch of ropes crews that are set up. They have the fire department there, and it might have been Cal Fire, I don't know, or the local fire department. It's crazy how technically advanced all those fire departments are in that area of being able to do cliff rescues, being able to do rope rappelling, swift water rescues. And so they were already set up, ready to belay down the cliff and bring the guy back up if necessary. And so we had a quick conversation with them over the radio of like, do you want this one? And we'll just be standby. Do you want us to do this? Like, what's the safest avenue for success? And we decided with them that a hoist with us was the safest route because we had trained it. We knew what was going on. We could send the swimmer down, pick him up, and then land on top of the cliff and deliver him. And so I had just made aircraft commander. I wasn't the AC on the flight. I was with another AC, but he was letting me run the show, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
And so I, first aircraft commander, I was taking a little bit slower probably than I needed to because I was just like over briefing everything at that point. When you're young and trying to do it right the first time. And so we set up in a 130-foot hover right over the cliff. And we got over there and I had my goggles down, but then you had the flashing lights of all the emergency vehicles. You had the flashlights of the guys on the cliff. And all of a sudden you're just like, I can't see shit. So the dry run was like a good dry run because we realized that, okay, do I do this with goggles on or do I flip the goggles up? And so we just asked all those guys to turn off their lights and just go dark because it was better for us. Because with goggles up, with all the flashing lights, it was just creating all these shadows and stuff like that. That was going to make the hoist that much harder. So again, one of those situations where like show up on scene and ask the question, ask for what you need and let other people, figure it out. And so we were just like, you guys
the advice came through again.
Yeah.
I love it.
It worked. It's one of those pieces of advice that's worked well my whole career, but like, can you guys just go dark? And so they did. They shut all the lights off so we could stay with goggles because it was a clear night down there at the time. And so it was a much better view. Pulled in over the cliff. It's a 130-foot hoist. And it was like this little like pocket alcove. So we tucked in there over top and then just sent the swimmer straight down to the bottom. And at the bottom were these giant boulders and stuff like that. So we had to kind of thread the needle a little bit with where we were putting the swimmer down there and put him down. He was able to package the patient, bring him up. And then it was actually pretty effortless because from there we just slid over top the cliff and landed. And but it was in the middle of the night. So as far as like, we were taking the judgment of the ground crews. We're like, hey, is it pretty flat over there? And they're like, yeah, it's totally flat. You'll be fine. So taking their word for it. Set the helo down nice and gently so that just to make sure that we didn't have too much of a slope or anything like that. Transferred the guy out to the ambulance and the fire trucks that were waiting. And then we bugged out of there, but it was, at that point, you fly an hour in the 65 and you're definitely way out of gas. So we had to go down to Point Arena for fuel. And shout out to all the crews that have refueled at Point Arena at 2 a.m. It's never goes well. You're recircling the gas yourself. You're trying to read this little like book. I've done it in like 2 a.m. with like 30 knot winds, 40 knot winds. You're trying to figure out it's raining sideways. You're trying to flip through this little binder and open the right valves in the right order. You're like, I don't know what's happening right now. And so thankfully it was a nice mellow night so we could figure it out, but recircled all the gas, filled up the helo, and then headed home. But as we're headed home, classic Humboldt, like fog rolls in, overcast skies roll in, coming up around Mendo, the wind changes, and all of a sudden it's like just dark. It is overcast. You have little to no visibility. We're just hunting on the radar, trying to find all those rocks that are sticking up out of the water. You don't want to get too far away from the coast because then everything is just darkness. If you want to hug the coast a little bit so that you have some sort of visual, because it just makes you that much more comfortable. But if you get too close to the shoreline, then all those rocks sticking up out of nowhere, and like you'd see a little blip on the radar and be like, is that one of those 200-foot rocks, or is that just a little blip on the radar? And so you're just like weaving in and out, just trying to avoid everything. It's 2 a.m, 3 a.m at this point, so you're just trying to keep everybody awake, flying home. And so that was a big eye-opening experience for me of keeping your head in the game, because at this point it's just a transit home, and it's a transit home that we've made 100 times, going down to Noyo to hoist, or like we've done this transit before. And so all the obstacles, but at the same time it's 3 a.m, everybody's getting a little punchy, and so keeping your head in the game. And at one point something blipped on the radar and we're like, I think we should just like come left like 10 degrees. And so we did. And then a couple minutes later, we just see this giant rock go down the right side, and we're like, oh, that was a good thing we went left a few degrees.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things of keeping your head in the game the whole way until you're back home. It's hard. It's easier said than done. You're like, yeah, of course I'll be locked in that moment, but then you're in that moment and you're exhausted. It's late. You've just done a huge mission. You're kind of like get home-itis, and hey, I've done this transit 100 times. It'll be fine. You can like get yourself into this situation that you don't want to be in. So
yeah, dang man, well done, you guys.
We got home.
Whole crew.
That was my first live hoist as an aircraft commander. That was my first like full live hoist, like doing the whole thing myself. Like the other case, I guess technically counted as a live hoist because I was on the controls for like 6 seconds.
Yeah, but your SI seats, that doesn't count.
And so, but this is the first one that I did like fully on my own. So it definitely felt really good. It was one of those like I finally made it moments.
Yeah.
In my career, because like I made aircraft commander, got this live hoist under my belt. It's like a pretty challenging one, and so it was a really like validating moment in my career.
That's cool, man. That's very cool. Well, thank you for sharing that, man. God, I love this stuff, and it's fun for me personally to hear this stuff because I remember being down there. I remember flying through Humboldt. I remember Point Arena. I remember having to get down there, and before you fill up the aircraft, you've got to pull the hose out. You got to put it back in the bucket, let it circulate through the tank for like 20 minutes, then fill it up, add the Prist, add this, add that. We've got snow or like rain blowing sideways. You're like, oh my God. The trees like I'm gonna put a picture up of the tree at Point Arena because it's literally like growing sideways because of the wind that comes off the ocean.
Yep.
It's insane. It's absolutely insane. Yeah. So, but anyway.
Then you got to go to the bathroom and you're trying to take a piss behind that little like shed and trying to huddle yourself in the corner, and skis flying everywhere because of the rain,
You're not sure if it's pee or rain. You're like, I don't know what's on my boots right now, but I'm sure I got to rinse them. Oh gosh, that's funny. Yeah, so you mentioned two things that I want to touch on real quick. One of them is you said that like the Cal Fire guys and all the fire guys, and I'm with you. They are set up for rope systems. They are experts at their craft when it comes to rope rescue. I have watched them. I've been around them. It is absolutely incredible. One of the funny things that I laugh at with this is that like you could call a helicopter and have the whole thing done in 10 minutes. And I always find it amusing. The guys, and I get it. I totally get it. The training is there. Is it the safest thing to have a helicopter come in and dangle a guy off it and connect them? And what if this goes wrong? What if that goes wrong? All the helicopter incidents that go down and there's problems. And, you see all the crazy videos of like, oh my God, this happened. Yeah. But it takes 10 minutes for us to do it. Like, legitimately.
It's the Coast Guard. We're super awesome with this, just let us handle it.
Yeah. Like, even no matter how many bad hoists you've probably seen on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, whatever, there was 10,000, and that's not an exaggeration, 10,000 hoists that were practiced and were perfect.
Yeah.
10 minutes to get them off. Just call us. Let's call the helicopter. We'll come get them.
Yeah. But this is another good opportunity to talk about not pendulums this time, but spins, right?
Yeah.
Because one of the you talk about Instagram videos, one of the most famous things that you're going to see on Instagram of hoists going wrong are litter spins, right?
Yes.
So what do you do when you have nobody down there? Like, you cannot get anybody else down to this location. And so you can't have a lag line or a trail line or whatever your organization calls it. You can't have anybody down there helping you out. You are doing a swimmer augmented double pickup because you want to have the swimmer with the guy as you're coming up, or maybe you leave the swimmer down there and you just do extra hoist so that he can man the trail line and try to kill any spin. But if you're bringing somebody up solo, how do you kill a spin? How do you prevent a spin if you have nothing else, right?
I know the answer to this. I know you asking me. I know the answer.
Yeah, hit me with it. Because this is another training opportunity, right? Forward flight.
Forward flight.
You have the turbulent flight zone that's underneath the aircraft. You know where they're going to start spinning the most. You know when it's going to happen. You don't have to depart right away. You don't have to have them way down here. You can wait until they get a little bit closer. But forward flight, you get rid of that rudder wash off the person. It's gone. And everybody's so scared of that. They're like, you're going to go into forward flight with somebody hanging off the, like, yeah, it's way better than them going on a fucking circus ride. So,
way better. Again, the dynamics of like the helicopter people that know this, and you're like,
exactly,
simple way to fix it. Simple.
Yeah, there's simple ways to get out of really complex situations, especially if you know what you're doing and you brief it and you train it ahead of time. And it's also one of those things that you can train. If you don't believe it, like, I can't tell you how many times I would go on an RT1, so like a basic pattern beater flight for us, right? And I would take a really junior pilot, really junior flight mech and swimmer, and we'd hook up the litter at the onto the aircraft and induce a spin, and then tell the pilot to fly forward, and all of a sudden the spin goes. Like it's gone. And everybody becomes a believer that fast. And all it took was 10 minutes of training where you're at the runway. There's zero risk involved. And it's about training effectively and training, like getting the most bang for your buck when you're training, right?
Efficiency and effectiveness.
I can do a whole bunch of landings and hit my spot and train and all of that, but now I have an entire crew that understands the dynamics of spins, pendulums, oscillations, and all it took us was 30 minutes. And my entire crew is trained and locked and loaded so that as soon as they see that next time, they can say forward 10, up 10, hold, I'm letting out cable, like I'm working this myself. Like all of a sudden everybody's on the same page and everybody understands. And all it took was 30 minutes of training. And it's one of the most common errors that you see in helicopter aviation rescues, that 30 minutes of training solves that problem.
Totally. Totally.
Or listening to a podcast, now you all know.
Like, I know a podcast the guys talking about this on. You know what? I'll put in the link. Yeah, I am totally on board. Like, I 100% agree with you. But so I again just kind of fall back on that. Like, again, I love all my firefighters and all the rope rescue guys. You guys do an amazing job. But if you want it done quick, just hey, can you come hoist this guy off? That'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem there. All right, for you it was an hour and 10 minutes. You had to get on scene.
Sure,
okay.
Sure. Yeah. But still, they had to get on scene too. This guy was in the middle of nowhere. So.
Oh, dang, man. That's kind of funny. All right, the other one, you made this other comment too, is like, it's you're learning, right? And it was, you were a new pilot. So going back to your first one, you don't know what you don't know, and you're learning. And then you're coming down, you're the aircraft commander, and you're learning. What I want to say to that is we all have to start somewhere. Everybody's got to learn this. So you're right. You don't know what you don't know. That's how we learn. And hopefully you get yourself and you get the knowledge and you fly with somebody that's had a ton of experience. They can give you those tips and tricks, and they're not hiding stuff. Just I want to tell everybody all my tips and tricks because I want everybody to use them. Like, I don't hide anything. Let it ride. Yeah. If I can help one person out there, have at.
Absolutely. But yeah, so it's one of those things that you don't know what you don't know until you fly with somebody who does, or you take it upon yourself to learn, right? Yeah. And how do you take it upon yourself? How do you ask questions? Like, who do you ask those questions to? Depending on the organization you're in, it's about reaching out, listening to the different podcasts, staying engaged, being willing to try something. Like, okay, you just heard Jason and I talk about how you can kill pendulums and spins and all that jazz, and you now have the knowledge, but will your organization let you try it? Will they let you go out and train it real quick so that you can learn that and put it in the toolbox? It's about taking the initiative yourself and training effectively and efficiently, exactly like you said.
Yeah, I totally agree. But I like the idea of like everybody's got to learn, and we all have to start somewhere. I've made a ton of mistakes as a swimmer, as a hoist operator, as a medic, like tons.
So many.
But if you're not making mistakes, you're not learning. Actually, I'll even go a step further with that one. And I remember like when I was learning how to water ski when I was a kid, my dad looked at me and said, "If you're not falling, you're not learning." And I'm like, okay, yeah. But at the same time, I don't want to fall. Like but like, oh, okay. So yeah, I learned because I fell. Like, okay, now don't do that again. And I think the same thing with everything I've done throughout my careers. If I'm not making mistakes, then I'm not learning. Because, and I got to be careful with this because I don't want people like all of a sudden, oh, well, I made mistakes. No, we're not trying. This is why we train. This is why we practice. But when you make the mistake, then it turns into some training, and that's a training opportunity to learn because you've made a mistake. Nobody's going out to purposely make mistakes. Like, I'm not. I want to do it perfect every time. It just doesn't happen all the time. So
and make
I have
the
an
mistakes,
opportunity to reflect.
Yeah, and make the mistakes at the right time. Like, by pushing yourself in training, by pushing yourself hard when the stakes are lower, make the mistakes when the stakes are lower so that when the stakes are higher, you don't make those same mistakes, right? So train hard. We used to say at AHRS all the time of, if you're not getting your ass kicked this week, then you're not trying. Like, get beat up a little bit. Like, let yourself get beat up this week, because put yourself out of your comfort zone and get beat up, because now's the time when the stakes are low to learn to make all these mistakes. Now's the time to eat your humble pie so that when a life is on the line, you're not doing the same thing and you've learned that lesson.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree. God, this is good stuff, right?
You got to train hard. You got to push yourself. You got to, like, it's like going to the gym. Like, if you're just going to go to the gym and walk a mile on the treadmill, that's great because you did something that day. But go to the gym and push yourself hard and make it worth it, make it count, because those little steps, those little efforts are going to add up.
For sure. Man, look at the advice you are dropping. Oh, I'm not. When I ask you my last question of like advice you're going to give, like, there's not going to be anything left. It's going to be too much.
We're not going to have anything to talk about. That's the goal. That's the problem. I was an instructor pilot for way too long in my career. Like everything is an instruction opportunity, you know?
Yeah. And we take advantage of it. And that's what it's all about. Oh, Ryan, this is great. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
All right, so I'm going to bring us out of Humboldt Bay. What was your next unit?
Mobile Bay. So ATC
Bay.
Mobile. Yeah, ATC okay. Mobile. So Aviation Training Center in Mobile, Alabama. That's where we send all of our pilots to learn initial flight for helicopters and in the Coast Guard helicopters anyway. So after flight school, you go through Mobile, Alabama to learn how to fly the Coast Guard aircraft. And we also run the different sea schools, the proficiency training every year that people go through Mobile, and then the advanced helicopter rescue school that we've mentioned a couple times.
So I know you want to touch on a little bit of teaching, being an instructor up advanced helicopters. Yeah. So
what do you, AHRS is the best job I've ever had in my life, you know?
Oh, it's amazing. And I never taught it. I just got to go through it. And I truly hope that one day I legitimately get to do it again. I don't care how I get to make that happen, but throwing it out there, guys, throw it out there. If I can go, that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. So Brent, what do you got? What stands out to you at AHRS that some of the stuff that you really like training and stands out to you?
Yeah. So, I mean, what is AHRS, right? AHRS is the Advanced Helicopter Rescue School where we put people through the paces. It's a total aircrew training. It's centered around the rescue swimmers, obviously, because you guys do the gnarly stuff. It was designed and created for rescue swimmers, but then all the pilots and the flight mechs wanted a little bit of the action. So we made it this total aircrew training where you put the crew through heavy surf rescue, cliff rescue, and urban SAR, so building rescue. Were the three, and inland rescues as well is what we were doing at that point. And it's everything. It's 1 week long, and every day you're doing something that's just crazy. You're doing a cliff rescue, you're doing surf ops, you're putting guys in and out of windows, or you're putting them in and out of a canopy to a small clearing. Learning how the 60 will lower and blow out the clearing a little bit more, with the rudder wash. The 65 just, aim small, miss small. And the weather, it's in Astoria, Oregon, and the weather minimums are gnarly. I mean, we're flying in 301. Wow. We're flying in 30 knot winds. We're sustained or with gusting winds up on the cliff. Like, we train hard. Airstay Astoria, they train really hard as well all the time because it's their backyard. We get to play in it a couple times a year. But it's a week-long training where we put Coast Guard air crews through the paces and through as much advanced training as possible in a short amount of time, because advanced techniques, they lend themselves to everyday flying. I mean, you're going into a confined area landing in a gnarly location. You can do a confined area landing in Houston, in Corpus. You can do confined area landings in hurricane conditions when they roll through, because you've flown in heavy winds and you know what's going on, the different reactions to the aircraft. And so we put people through as much as we can in order to make them prepared and, just toughen everybody up a little bit. So
yeah,
that's the game plan. It's all about accepting risk to train.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Wait, just out of curiosity, did you get dropped off? Did you get left on scene with some of the swimmers like offshore?
No,
Did you do that?
didn't do that. That would have been,
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. So it was an option at one point. I remember what they did.
We stopped doing that because we replaced it with the inland SAR, with the urban SAR stuff.
Okay. All right.
And cave rescue we did a couple times too.
Well, I had to do cave rescue as well. I didn't do any of the inland SAR, like the stuff that you guys do, but the last, I think it was the last day, we'd fly out like 10 miles offshore, and then you'd have a little raft out there, our little one-man raft, and say, drop everybody off. 45 minutes later ish, they were coming back to get us. So if you weren't throwing up, oh God. Awesome. I love that school so much. I had so much fun. Anyway, right on. Well, I'm glad you got to be there and have some good instruction. That is one of my favorite courses that I've ever been through, and I had an opportunity to go through it twice. So it's awesome.
Being an instructor up there was the best job that I'll ever have in my life. I mean, and we got to fly with everybody. The Canadians came through. I did cliff ops with them, and the big yellow bird. Like, you get to fly with everybody. The Navy swimmers occasionally. You get to fly across platform. Yeah, PJs, go ride in the 60. Go get 60 guys on the 65. You know, it's and the total aircrew training, learning each crew position made me a better pilot, because I knew what the other guy was going through, or he could communicate that much better with me because he didn't have to spend the whole time explaining, or have a flight mech and she doesn't have to explain what she's doing. She can just tell me what's happening and I understand what she's doing in the process. You know, you create seamless communication through understanding.
Yeah. God, I love it. Yeah, I can't emphasize it enough. Like, if anybody has an opportunity to go through that school, do it. Yeah. Do it. I don't know how like not civilian, but other operators, like other law enforcement or fire agencies, to fly out to there would be a pain in the neck, and you'd be pulling birds out of service. But if you have an opportunity to do it, oh my gosh, absolutely take advantage of it.
If I had $1 billion, I would start a company that would lose money probably at first, but it would be an AHRS for other companies to go through. It would like set up a school, because it's such a valuable training opportunity to push people and to get people into that environment. So
and a great way to waste $1 million. And
it's a great way to waste $1 million. That's funny. Once it got up and going, I think you'd have enough people paying to go through. So
probably not, but hey, we can keep dreaming. I like this dream. Oh, that's funny, Ryan.
So yeah, I forgot to mention, we had this one training evolution where we were hoisting in surf ops, and I was in the left seat. We're doing free fall deployments, and I was with a flat water pilot that likes to get real low. And we had a set of waves roll in on us that was higher than the first set. And so all of a sudden we hear the flight mech say, up, 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 up. And I look out across the aircraft, and I'm looking up at a wave. And so I'm pulling collective. Everybody's pulling collective. And then the wave just passes right underneath us. And then you kind of like shake that off, and you're just like, okay, let's continue training, and it's just one of those things, of those repetitive stress injuries that get you over the course of your career that you laugh about now. But in the moment, that one was like, that was an eye opener. Like, I've had those, swimmer in the water giving you the up command so that you like pull the aircraft up because there's a wave behind you that you don't see. Total crew training. You got to trust everybody, and doesn't matter who tells you listen to them and believe in them. That's what AHRS is all about.
Dude, oh my gosh.
So do the same thing for fall part of the swimmer. With the sling this time to the survivor. Watch your altitude, watch your altitude. Up. That was good. That was me on the collective. It's all you now. Roger. Yep. All right. I was looking at that one. I feel like that was a bigger one. Yeah, she was coming for us. You got to watch out because not all waves are the same height. So. Yeah. All right.
So interestingly enough, even with all your training and everything while you were there in Mobile, you got deployed out for Hurricane Dorian and earned yourself a combination medal. And I'm excited to read this and go over this with you because you worked a lot. Let me just read it, and then you can kind of give us the background of how you got into it, everything that you did there.
There are too many stories with Dorian. Yeah.
Oh, see, this is going to be great. That's why I'm excited to read this. All right, here we go. Citation to accompany the award of the Coast Guard Combination Medal to Lieutenant Ryan J. Vandehei, United States Coast Guard. Lieutenant Vandehei is cited for outstanding achievement while serving as aircraft commander aboard the Coast Guard helicopter 6524 and member of the Bahama Incident Command Post from 05 September to 10 September 2019. Hurricane Dorian struck as the strongest Category 5 hurricane on record to make landfall in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas, with catastrophic winds topping 185 miles per hour. It wrought a staggering path of destruction and devastated multiple islands throughout the Bahamas, eventually continuing up the southeastern coast of the United States. More than 900 Coast Guardsmen, 9 cutters, and 32 aircraft mobilized to deliver desperately needed aid and assistance. As aircraft commander aboard the Coast Guard helicopter responding in the first wave of rescue sorties, Lieutenant Vandehei established critical fueling procedures between the British vessel RFA Mounts Bay and U.S. helicopter responders. He and the crew of the Coast Guard helicopter continued on to save one life, deliver 120 pounds of medical supply, and transported the District 7 commander over a 14-hour mission day and 6 flight hours. He then stood up the Bahamas Search and Rescue SAR Coordination Center, which answered 1,388 SAR calls and directed 198 aviation sorties that ultimately saved or assisted 457 people. Lieutenant Vandehei, dedication, judgment, and devotion to duty are most heartily commended and are in keeping with the highest traditions of the United States Coast Guard. Well done, sir. Dope.
That was a fun week.
Yeah, and you get there on the first wave, so
yeah.
Yeah, 14-hour days, flying 6 straight hours, because you're grounded at 6 hours. I have to remind everybody of that. Like in the Coast Guard, you hit 6 flight hours, you're grounded for 10 minimum. So, game on.
Yeah.
All right, run us through it.
I mean, it started with we're at the bar in Mobile, and Hurricane Dorian was making its way at the Bahamas, and so there was a request for forces to leave the next day, basically. And I turned to my buddy, was like, "You want to go fly with me in the Bahamas together? Like, let's do this." And he's like, "Absolutely." And then we get there, and it turns out I'm the only guy from Mobile that got to fly. So we sent like 6 or 7 guys, and I drew the short straw and was able to fly. Starting out that day, it was in the first wave of sorties. So this was after the hurricane had passed, and so we're kind of tucking in behind the hurricane. So it was actually pretty good weather the whole day, and it said in there like coordinating the fueling with the British ship. My initial mission was go refuel at this British ship that's out like on the far side of the island, or its island chain, and then come back in and establish this as like a location. And I was like, you want me to just go bingo to this random British ship? Like, do we even know that we're like compatible, or am I just going to show up on this British ship and be grounded because they don't have a compatible fueling like nozzle and everything like that? So I'm sitting there calling calling buddies. Now's when it's a great time to have a support network. I'm calling guys that are at Hitron that have worked with the British ships before, that I'm talking to different ops bosses of like, has anybody worked with like the Royal Navy before? Do we know, like, do they know what's going on? Is it a NATO like standardized fueling? What is this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just some pilot that's trying to make sure that I don't do anything too stupid. And so we figured out like someone has landed on this ship before. Everything's NATO standardized, and so it's going to be fine. And so we're able to go out there. And then, of course, I do all of this prep work. And as soon as I take off, they divert me somewhere else instead. So I didn't even get to land on the ship. I was so mad. I was like, man.
Oh man.
So they had us, it was chaos at this stage. You have so many helicopters flying, so much destruction. They had us going all over the place. So we go to one location to look for somebody, and it's one of those where you have little to no information. They know a general area of where you need to go. And so we landed in a tennis court and sent the flight mech out with some water to the locals and was like, hey, we got a call that somebody was in need in this area. Does anybody know? Couldn't find that person. So we moved on to the next case. Turns out somebody else had gone in and gotten that person like already. And so now we're flying to the other side of the island chain. We go to this little K that had just been totally wiped out. Like, you're looking at building foundations, and like this whole island, everything had just been totally wiped out. And we're looking for somebody who's in need or who'd been injured. And so again, I just landed on this road and set my flight mech in one direction and the swimmer in the other direction with the radios, and said, just walk until you find somebody and try to figure out like who it is that needs help right here. And so turns out the flight mech was the guy that found him. So we came back, we took off and landed again closer to where the person was. Swimmer packaged them up. At this point, we have no gas and we're trying to make it to NASA. And so we take off and we're at like -2 minutes to bingo.
Oh,
and
God.
like, we'll make that fuel back up in the air. It'll be fine. So we beeline it out of Nassau to land, and we land and it's chaos. There are people everywhere, helicopters everywhere. I turned to my co-pilot and I was like, go walk over to that fuel truck guy, and I don't care if you got to bribe him or whatever, make sure that he hits us next, because Ospreys were coming in. I was like, if those guys need gas too, they're going to take all the gas. So I was like, go like be that guy's shadow until he fuels our helicopter. Like, that is your job. And so kudos to the co-pilot who like just badgered the guy incessantly until he fueled our helicopter next. Because when those Ospreys rolled through, they took all the gas.
Oh my gosh.
And then a bunch of 60s rolled in also at the same time, and they're going to be thirsty. And so we drop off the guy that we had saved, and then we unloaded a bunch of medical supplies because we're going to go hit one of the Coast Guard ships on the way. And we had already, during the day, refueled at a Coast Guard ship while we were bouncing around the islands and everything. And so we had been flying for quite a while. So the plan was to pick up medical supplies, go back to a different Coast Guard ship, drop off the medical supplies, refuel, and then go back to Miami, where we're all staging out of. And so we load up all these medical supplies, and they're in Coors Light boxes, which is hilarious.
Oh,
and so it
that's
just looks
funny.
like I have a bunch of Coors Light in the back of the helicopter. But we're so loaded down with medical supplies and with fuel that I only had the flight mech with me, and I was like, had the swimmer in the co-pilot waiting so that I could start at the helo myself and burn down enough gas so that they could get in the helo, because we wanted to take off right at our max gross. And so we fueled up extra. And so they're out waiting while I'm starting the helo on my own. And all of a sudden, I'm just about to flip the switch, the FCS to flight, and I look over and someone's knocking on my window, and it's an admiral. I was like, "What are you doing here?" He's like,
"Hello, sir."
Like, I'm riding. He's like, "I'm riding with you," and I was like, "Sure, get on in." So I was like, I'm not getting out of the helicopter to figure this out. If you said that you're riding with me, roger that, sir. You can hop on in and let's go. So I was like,
that is the proper response there, right? Yes, Admiral. Yes, you are.
Yes, sir.
I have your seat right here. Come on in, sir.
Right there.
Headset's over there, right here.
There's light boxes. There's a helmet. There's a headset.
Don't worry about the boxes in the back, sir.
Don't worry about those. I promise I know what I'm doing.
You didn't see anything. My goodness. I was like,
we're stopping at a ship first, right? We're not going straight back to Miami. He's like, yeah, I know, you're fine. I was like, okay, whatever, man. You can hop on in. And it was Admiral Jones, and I had interacted with him earlier in my career when he was a captain, which was awesome. But anyway, so he jumps in the back. I start the aircraft. We burn down enough gas, get the other crew members in the aircraft, and then we go to taxi out. And there's this admiral's aide just waving at us, and we just waved back and left. We were like, oh, I guess the admiral's aide is just waving at us, saying goodbye. Turns out she had no idea. She's like waving us down, like, don't take the admiral. But we're like, sir, you sure you're supposed to be with us? He's like, absolutely. I'm like, sounds good, man. So we just kept on
He's
trucking.
the admiral. He's in charge.
He's in charge. And like, it's your helicopter. Like, let's go.
Oh God, that's funny. So I love it.
But so we get to the hold short line, and there are no less than 5 aircraft trying to leave all at the same time. It is so messy over ground, the ground frequency, that at one point the controller like totally broke protocol and was like, I need everybody to shut the F up. Like in order to get everybody out here, like, and she like freaked out over the radio. And I was like, hey, do the takeoff checks. I'm going to just talk to tower. So I switched to tower, and just, instead of asking to taxi, I was like, request present position takeoff direct from tower. And they're like, granted, just get out of here and stay south. And so I was like, sounds good. That's all I need. So we're finishing the takeoff checks as I was pulling power, but doing a present position takeoff at max gross weight in the Bahamas in summertime. And that's not a great thing in the 65. So we're like,
you're just like, yeah, I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
Like,
let's go.
Baby, you got this. and so again, like instructor pilot, ATC mobile instructor. I wasn't an AHRS instructor quite yet. I was on the list to go B1, but like I thought I knew my shit at this point in my life, right? Like I knew how to do a max gross takeoff, and looking back, I could have done it better. Like knowing different techniques and knowing how to get the aircraft going where you want it to go. I did what I could, and we didn't over torque, so that was a win. We like settled at one point because I like edged it forward, and right as we were clearing like ground effect, or like going through ground effect, it settled, and we're out over the marshy area. So like a bunch of spray, like water sprayed up at us. Like we got so low to the marsh trying to take off that we got spray up in the aircraft. But we were able to get out of there. Barely. Thank God I didn't over torque with the admiral in the back and everything. Like that was just not going to be a fun time.
God was on your side that day.
Yeah, I was pulling 9.9 repeating and just got lucky at that point. So we got out of there. At this point, it had been such a long day. It'd been like a 13-hour day for us at this point. So we were talking about like, hey, let's not go to the ship and let's just bring all these medical supplies to back to Miami, because if we land on the ship, if we run into any problems, we're going to be grounded on the back of the ship. And if we clog up a flight deck when everybody needs fuel, like this is just we're talking about hovering next to the boat, delivering the supplies and doing a hyper so that we can refuel. Like we're talking about increasing the risk so that we don't clog a flight deck when all we have to do is just fly home to Miami instead. And so that's what we did. We just flew straight back to Miami. We talked to the admiral. We're like, hey, sir, we're just not going to go back to this boat. He's like, I totally agree with your risk assessment and everything. And sounds good to me. Like, that's all the permission I need. And we keyed into they had like an Overwatch. They had a P3 Overwatch that was running comms for all the aircraft, which those guys are crazy in those situations. Like the way that they handle command and control is awesome. They really know their stuff and know what they're doing. And they actually have the capability of like texting, and they have increased comms with ground support and stuff like that. So having one of those things in the air was phenomenal because they were able to run command and control for everybody. So we checked in with them, told them that we had the admiral on board and everything, like everything was squared away. Then we just 45-minute transit back to Miami with all the medical supplies and the admiral in the back. We're just chatting the whole time. Like we're all old friends. And I had, this is another thing that I forgot to mention. I had met this crew that morning. So classic Coast Guard, like, I had not flown with any of these guys until that morning. I met them, shook their hand and said, okay, let's go. Right. So interoperability, like Coast Guard being able to plug and play, was on full display that day. But so we landed in Miami, and I shut the aircraft down, go in to sign it in, and someone's like, where the hell has the admiral been? You took the admiral like offline for an hour and a half, and nobody knew where he was. I was like, I checked in with everybody, man. I was like, what am I supposed to do? He just gets in my helicopter. They're like, he wasn't supposed to go with you. He was supposed to go with somebody else. I'm like, how am I supposed to know that? So I totally stole the admiral for an hour and a half, and nobody knew where he was. I'm like, I waved goodbye to the aide, and I checked in with a P3. Like, that's a checklist complete, you know?
Oh my gosh, Ryan, that's hilarious.
So anyway, yeah, that was the flying portion. But then we stood up the SAR Center, which is like a call center for everybody had this phone number, right? Of hey, I have friends in the Bahamas, or Sweetings K, or hey, I'm over here and I need help, or hey, this is happening and I need a ride out of here, or we got however many phone calls that award said, hundreds of thousands, like, yeah, it felt like, and we were managing all of the chaos. So for the rest of the week, we were managing like where everybody went. So we get a phone call of, hey, I'm pregnant and like starting to get contractions, like, and our local hospital is like shot. So like, I need a ride to Miami. And so we would coordinate like, okay, there's an Air Force 60 in your area. They're going to land at the football field to pick you up, and then, fly you back to Miami. And we were coordinating all of that through the P3, through the like call center that we had set up. And we're just like ad-libbing it, just a bunch of pilots and some air crew just trying to figure it out, and some OSs who were thankfully like phenomenal.
OS, define OS.
Operations specialists. So they're used to being in a call center and receiving these types of phone calls. And so these guys were setting up like computer programs to track everybody in rescue cases and what was happening, sorties, who was where. We had a big map up. It was just like in the movies, you know, just trying to figure out all the red lines going everywhere, trying to figure out where everybody was and what was happening. And it was one of the most like fulfilling experiences of my life, being in that command center and being like, it was almost more fulfilling than the flight of, yeah, we saved a life, we delivered medical supplies, and we did all this cool stuff. But like being on the phone with somebody and being like, hey, I'm going to send a 60 to go help you out. Like, go to this location and they'll pick you up in 30 minutes. Like, it's just an unreal experience to be able to help somebody out like that. And we got
That's pretty
tons
cool,
of
man.
those types of phone calls, you know? And
Yeah.
so, kudos to everybody involved. Like, I didn't set that system up. I was just plug and play. Like, they just set me down in front of a phone and said, answer this, and and try to help out.
Let me go through my Rolodex. Oh, look, I got an 860, and I got a 65, and I got an Air Force, I got a Coast Guard, I got an Army. Let's send them.
Yeah, what do you need, man? We'll send them your way. So,
oh man,
it was a pretty cool experience. Yeah.
Oh man, congratulations! Well done on that, man. Good job, sir. So proud of you, Ryan. Plus an admiral that you relocated by accident. Amazing.
By accident. Hey, if you're going to jump in my aircraft, I'm going to take you for a ride. Sounds good.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. And I'm so glad you shared that with us. That is hilarious. Oh, man. We're going to divert real quick to thank our sponsors.
Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140-plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
All right, so let's get you out of Mobile, and your next unit, you go to
Houston, Texas.
Right on.
So just a short jump across. Yeah. Over to Houston, Texas, where I supply officer at first and then the assistant ops boss after that. Just small unit, an instructor at a small unit. It was an incredible experience. Like, I thought I had a lot of fun teaching the fleet. I had even more fun, and it was so much more rewarding to teach a small unit and to be involved in the development of young pilots and just watch their growth all the way through from co-pilot up to aircraft commander. It's pretty awesome.
Into like an FEB or an instructor pilot.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Yes. So. I love seeing that as well. It's like they end up taking things from you and you're like, oh, they do listen.
Yeah. Somebody like quotes you in a meeting and you're like, you're right, I did say that.
Yeah.
You were listening.
Shit, you're quoting me. Did I say that right? Damn it. That's not what I said. Oh wait, no, that's a good one. Yeah, that's exactly what I said. Yeah. Man, that's cool. I'll tell you what, if you're good with it, what I'd like to do is I'd like to touch on the last rescue that you did before it was done. And then we're going to get into a little something else.
Yeah. My last rescue was pretty cool in that it encapsulated where I was in my career at that point, because you stop doing all the fun stuff and being the guy at the controls and you start coaching other people. And I went out with a pretty junior pilot who had just been right seat skills qualified. And we were hoisting, I think, an appendicitis case off of the bridge wing of a ship. And we show up on scene, and it's just this guy it's his first hoist. You know, he's like super stoked about it. Can't wait to get out there. Like, you get to see the enthusiasm and like that career defining moment for somebody else just play out in front of you. And it's so rewarding. Obviously I made it a little bit harder on him, wouldn't let him use the modes. I was like, we got to make this a little bit of a training opportunity. You can do this hoist.
You're a
he
dick.
He knocked it out of the park. I mean, he crushed it. He did this hoist flawlessly, picked him up, went down, did the confined area landing at the hospital like beautifully, and then we bugged out home. And it was just one of those like just perfect Coast Guard SAR cases where you go out, you get the job done, you come home, you get a little training out of it. You know, it's a win-win all around. So
Excellent.
It was,
you know
like,
what? Well done as an instructor pilot, sir.
The best thing was I had a couple of FEB members in the back of the aircraft too, so it was even better because I had like an FEB member swimmer and flight mech, so it was just a rock star crew. So we were just heckling this kid the whole time to make sure that he crushed it. He's an awesome pilot. He actually just made aircraft commander the other day.
Oh, good for him.
So,
well done,
yeah,
sir.
Huge. So it's so fun to watch people go all the way through their career like that. So,
man, I love it. That's funny. It's funny that you made it harder on an somewhat easy first hoist to rescue off a bridge win of a tanker. Oh, I love it.
Right, he crushed it. He did a good job.
Good. You know what? And it sounds like the rest of the crew did a great job as well, and successful mission at that. So,
yeah,
kudos.
Yeah.
So, bravo, Zulu, sir.
I didn't do any of the hard work. I was in the left seat the whole time, just running comms.
Making him work.
Making him work.
That's your job at that point. That's perfect. Because it's like you were in that seat at one point in time in your career. Now, it like you said, it's watching somebody else like earn that spot, and it's like, oh, freaking
yeah,
awesome.
Welcome to the club. It's
exactly. Yeah, oh, I love it. So there's a reason I wanted to kind of touch on that or like end with that, because you have written an article for Vertical Magazine, which we're going to tie in the link to this. They actually interview you a little bit about mental health. And then in addition to that, you're going to be writing an article, which I will also have in this like description when it comes out, that you're like, why don't people say anything? So let's start with the first one in the interview and the mental health, and the one that Jen talks about.
Yeah. I've been on a journey over the last couple years, mental health journey, where I started to have, I don't know how to explain it other than I just went downhill really fast all of a sudden, which it wasn't. It was a slow burn, but I didn't identify all the steps along the way. And I ended up having to duck out of aviation entirely from the Coast Guard, and because of mental health. And I had just at one point got to a really low point with suicidal thoughts and self-harm, and got to the point where I just wasn't functioning at all. And I even went to an inpatient facility for a couple months to straighten myself out. And a lot of it was tied to SAR cases that had gone badly, the repetitive stress injury of flying and aviation over so many years, plus a couple external to the Coast Guard events in my life that I hadn't really addressed properly. They all just kind of built up to a breaking point, and I was holding it together by a thread at one point, but I wasn't really holding it together. And so then I pretty much lost everything, right? I lost my identity. I lost being a pilot. I lost my career. I lost the future that I had planned. Everything just kind of got taken away in that moment because I had let my mental health get so bad that it was not unrecoverable, because I have my life. Thankfully I have myself. But everything got to the point where, because I didn't take care of it early, I ended up stepping away from aviation entirely and cutting my career short by a couple years. I was going to be done flying after Houston anyways, at least for a little while, because they send you to staff. But I'm actually getting out of the Coast Guard now as well, which had been on the table anyway. But still, it's been quite the journey. Self-realization, just actualization. Grieving the loss of aviation in my life, grieving the loss of like community, and it's just been a wild journey that I've been on over the last like year and a half. And so writing an article for Vertical about why are pilots and aviators in general, because you can say this about all aircrew, I believe, of why are we just coded not to say anything when we're hurting, or not to realize or come forward, you know?
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Jen,
Well,
Jen did an
can I ask you a
article.
question?
Yeah, please. I'm rambling.
So,
at this point, so.
no, it's okay. So my first question is like, what came out? Like, how did you identify that you were really struggling? And with that, like, how did it come out to be like, all right, I need a timeout. I need to take a break. I need to step away.
There were two turning points for me that I really realized that like I was at a point where I needed to get help. One of them was an article written by a friend, Rob Simpson, who is
love Rob Simpson. He's been on this podcast.
He's the man.
Episode. I don't remember what episode, but Rescue Swimmer number 699. Love the guy.
It was that episode and the article that he wrote that he talked about his own mental health journey. That was a pivotal moment for me, and that's actually the reason why I agreed to do Jen's interview and am writing an article for them, because I saw how impactful somebody else coming forward was for me. And so kind of following in his leadership of just being honest and letting the chips fall where they may gave me the courage to do the same. And then that gave me the courage to speak up. And then the moment that gave me that was the, oh shit, this is really serious, was I was laying in bed one night after like a really hard day, I think a fight with the wife, and just another like sleepless week of nightmares and stuff like that. And I was thinking about how I would write a suicide note to my daughter, who's 3. And
oh my gosh,
that was like, what the fuck am I doing with my life? If this is where I'm at right now. And I went to work the next day and had an FEB meeting. Like, went to work the next day and was same old pilot Ryan, you know, holding it together and stuff like that. But behind the scenes, I was just falling apart. And so it was this moment of complete darkness coupled with seeing someone else having the courage to say something and to speak up that really gave me that that kick in the pants that I needed. And then my wife also sitting me down and being like, you really need to figure this out. Like, what's happening with you? Like, your career can go be damned. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not here to enjoy that career. And so those 3 kind of moments led me to going to the flight doc and just telling him everything. So
yeah. Wow. Good on you, man. That is a hard thing to do. A very hard thing to do.
Yeah, I sat in the parking lot and still questioned it.
Yeah. I get it. I get it. It's we talk about the mental health side of things in this job and what we do on this podcast a lot. And I would say the majority of the advice at the end of every podcast is mental health. Take care of your mental health.
Yeah.
For those that haven't experienced something like this yet being the key word, it's you're going to see something in you that's not normal. And that's something that you have to figure out on your own. And that's why I asked you, like, where was it for you? Like, what that turning point was. And you laying in bed thinking about writing a letter, that's a turning point. That's like what am I doing? Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you're here talking about it. I think it's very, very important. So I don't take it lightly at all.
Yeah. And I'm glad so many people are talking about it, because it starts with us. It starts, we own our own community, and it starts with us to talk about it.
Well, we are a bunch of type A personalities. We're the alpha dogs. There's no question about it. You guys sitting up front of the aircraft, you're pilots. You know how I know you're a pilot?
Because I told you.
Because you said it. You know how I'm a rescue swimmer? I probably told you.
You told me.
You know how I do CrossFit? Yeah, it's because I told you, right?
Exactly.
I'm proud of that, and it means something to me to be able to say that. And I like to. I'll use the word identity. It is part of my identity, but I earned that. That's a title that I earned, and I'm proud of it. I don't take it lightly with anybody that earns something, that has gone through hell and back to earn it. So now I'm going to come back to your statement that you just said, is like, why don't people say anything? You're writing an article about this one too. I believe wholeheartedly in this one. And for me personally, I'm going to answer that question through me. I worked my ass off to get to the point where I'm at. Why do I want to say something? I don't want to lose what I've earned. And that is a hard thing for me as a swimmer to do. Now, I'm pretty good at compartmentalizing stuff, but I have been through my own demons, and I've talked about it on this podcast. I've stood in the shower crying and not knowing why I'm crying, and realizing that it was just the mission that I was just on. And I don't want to talk about it because I'm supposed to be this tough guy. Or years later, when there's a little girl that I had to pull out of the water, or the 20-year-old, and her eyes are rolled back in her head, and I could still picture her on the beach even right now. And I'm driving home and I'm crying. I'm like, what is wrong with me? This should not be that big of a deal. And it is. And it needs to be okay to be talked about. It's okay. Even if you get together with your brothers, your whatever, your camaraderie. And I've totally taken the wheel on this. I'm sorry, but I'm very passionate about this as well. I think it's important. So with that, Ryan, what is your answer to that? Why don't people say anything?
I think because we think the consequences are bigger than they are. I think that we think someone's going to pull our wings because we had a bad case, right? We talked so much about the good cases, but like you said, we haven't talked about all the cases in my career, which I think if you laid them out, I've had more ones go wrong than I've had go right. You don't talk about we didn't talk on this podcast about the cases where I'm looking for a dad and the mom and the daughter are on the beach watching us for the whole time while we're looking for their father. You don't talk about the case where the dad gets swept off to sea in a sneaker wave, and you pick him up and you see the body as it's coming in the helicopter, right? You don't talk about the case where you're looking for that 10-year-old kid that you might not find. You don't talk about the abalone divers that are too many to count, right? We don't talk enough about the cases that don't go right, and we don't acknowledge enough of the pain. And one thing that I've learned is that we talk so much about resiliency in aviation, right? And resiliency is amazing. Compartmentalization is amazing. It's the reason that I would choose any aviator on any day to be on my team, no matter what it is, because I know that we can get shit done. But resiliency is great in the moment, but it's kind of like an athlete, right? If you have an Olympian who's running the marathon and they sprain their ankle with a mile left, they're probably going to finish that race because they worked their entire career to get to that moment, right?
Yep.
But if they're training and they sprain their ankle, they're going to stop and take care of it. And that's life resiliency. That's long-term resiliency. And we focus so heavily on short-term resiliency in aviation of compartmentalization that we don't talk enough or pay attention enough to long-term resiliency. And it's that long-term resiliency, that take a knee early and often, that talk about it early and often, that cry about it early and often, that getting help for my mental health, talking to a therapist, has made me a better father. It's made me a better person and made me a better pilot throughout my entire career. And when I got help, when I sought help, because I went to see a therapist when I was in Humboldt because of some cases that went bad. And it made me a better person. It made me a better pilot. And why are we stigmatized so strongly against something that will just make us better? Why is there a stigma against something that's going to make us so much stronger for it? It doesn't make sense.
I really like what you said. You know? Well, I like what you said. It's like you're scared of an outcome because you don't know what happens if you do say something. And I'll add this too, because you hear so many of the horror stories of, I came forward to say I'm having a problem and boom, grounded. And you're grounded indefinitely. And you're like, wait, what? I don't want to be grounded. I need to get this off my chest. But people don't. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I love the brotherhood. Yeah. Like I'm going to talk specifically about the Rescue Swimmer Brotherhood. Like we have such a tight community for that. I remember going into the shop after days and doors closed and just be like, all right, boys, let's have a sit down. How are we doing? How is that case? This just happened. Let's talk about it. I don't care if you want to or not. Let's just tell me about it. Tell me what happened. And then all of a sudden it like the floodgates open and people start talking, but it's that,
it's more of that. It's encouraging the community to be that open with each other and that vulnerable with each other. That's vulnerability begets vulnerability. You know, if you are open and honest, other people will be open and honest with you as well.
Yeah. Ryan, I am really excited for when this article comes out. I'm excited to read it and have it. I'll have the links in the description of this episode as soon as they're out, so anybody can come back and just click on the links, and then it'll go right to the story itself. But and congratulations on being able to like a new writer for Vertical Magazine. Whoop, whoop. So that's fantastic. You know? Yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's good.
Starting the career and then identity off, you know, leaving the Coast Guard, going to be a stay-at-home dad, being an author. That's my game plan. So, just owning it.
Excellent. Well, good for you, man. I'm psyched for you. And I'm excited that you and I, the next time we get together as well. But I do have one more question it's my like famous last question. Piece of advice. You've given a lot of great advice across this episode. Yeah. So if you've got another one that you would drop to anybody and everybody doing the job, what would it be?
Train hard. Like, honestly, we talk about it this whole time, you know, of you can ask all the questions. You don't know what you don't know, but train hard and push yourself. But then that also goes towards your mental health. You know, you need to train your mental health also. And that's in being open and vulnerable with yourself and with others, and go home at the end of the day and talk about it if you need to. But be willing to push yourself and be willing to be uncomfortable, because that makes all the difference, right? Your willingness to be uncomfortable matters. Be uncomfortable in your emotions, be uncomfortable in your environment when you're training, be uncomfortable in life, and that will make you more comfortable when it matters.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I love it. Ryan, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming back and joining me again for a second time. This is amazing. And again, I'm so happy that you are writing for Vertical. So pumped, man, because that means we're going to work a lot more together.
I hope so.
Yeah. So, and at one point we're going to get together for another beer and a shot of whiskey. All right. Just because I like to.
Got it.
All right, brother. Well, I'll be in touch, and thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are out of here.
Go.
Now, it's time for me to pull chocks and take off. But before I go, I'm always looking for the memorable rescues that people have done. If you have one that you're willing to share or know somebody who has a story, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to highlight it here at the Real ResQ. For everybody that is standing by for that SAR alarm, remember, those in distress are praying for a miracle. They are going to get you. So until next time, fly safe and swim hard. Thank you for joining me today here at the Real ResQ Podcast, powered by Vertical Helicast. We'd also like to say thank you to our sponsors for this episode.
Airbus. Airbus provides the most efficient helicopter solutions to its customers who serve, protect, save lives, and safely carry passengers in demanding environments. Its civil and military helicopters are flying all over the world, making missions possible. Visit airbus.com for more information.
Metro Aviation. Metro Aviation, the world's largest family-owned aeromedical operator, offers comprehensive aircraft services with 140 plus aircraft in over 25 states. The Completion Center installs medical and law enforcement kits and avionics, serving diverse aviation needs including offshore, utility, VIP, and corporate sectors.
And
SpectroLab. SpectroLab, a pioneer and world-leading supplier of high-intensity searchlights for all para-public operations. Visit www.spectrolab.com to learn more about our third-generation Night Sun series, high-intensity searchlight. When reliability and performance is critical to your mission, count on SpectroLab Night Sun searchlights.
Hey Ryan, do you have a funny training flight story, like in all of your career?
Ooh, there are way too many to count. The swimmers that decide to pee on the wheel and make eye contact with you the whole time is definitely, always uncomfortable. But no, the number one that I got.
Oh my God. Oh, that's fantastic.
We had a guy blow out his dry suit doing a free fall deployment in the middle of the ocean. We were way offshore and he free falls and gets over the radio and it's like, we got to call off training because my dry suit just exploded and it filled with water. So we had to go pick him up and call off training after one evolution because the seam split in his dry suit and just filled him up with water. He was a lot heavier coming back up.
Aircraft tips a little further. Oh my gosh! Oh, I think
he forgot the zipper. I think that's actually what happened. But
could happen. It could happen. Dude, that's hilarious. Thank you for sharing that, man.